Hi everybody, this is Sasha. Thank you for coming at my final presentation. We're gonna talk about very complex and boring stuff. So let's try to make it at least something useful for everyone. I will begin by talking about what I've done during these 2 years, and I will try to give you a general overview about what I've been working on, what my main influences and inspiration were during these 2 years. So I will not only talk about my research, but I will talk also about what I did in like entrepreneurship, course, and performance. But in order to get the overall view, I thought that starting with my research would be a good idea because it kind of started from there. Everything started from there, and from this idea I had. It may sound crazy, and it sounds crazy somehow still to me right now, but 2 years ago when I moved to Groningen, I was reading a lot of French book mostly. I don't know why, but one of them really inspired me. And it was something completely different from what I was reading at the time. Because that book was kind of obscure in its language. And the idea that were expressed there, they were very new and sometimes even controversial to me, that I kind of read that book so fast and was really inspired by it. Then that book kind of influenced, even though it was not about music, it influenced my music as well. So just to get into it quickly, the book I was reading was a book written by Jacques Derrida, who was a French philosopher. It was a Jewish Algerian-born philosopher who was born during the 1930s. And he is considered the father of the deconstruction theory. Probably a bunch of you have been to Bilbao or to New York, not me unfortunately, but yeah, there's a lot of buildings there which have been influenced by Derrida and his philosophy. Because a whole architectural movement was born after Derrida. It's called deconstructivism. And as you can see in these pictures, those buildings were really chaotic, I would say. But in this apparent chaos, there's a logic. There are some rules which they may not be the rules we see every day, but these rules, they have a logic in themselves and they are strong. So to jump into the topic very fast, I prepared a short video. It's a very boring video, actually. So I will play just the first minutes of it.
What is deconstruction? In the Collins English Dictionary, the word deconstruction is explained as follows. A technique of literary analysis that regards meaning as resulting from the differences between words rather than their reference to the things they stand for. Different meanings are discovered by taking apart the structure of the language used and exposing the assumption that words have a fixed reference point beyond themselves.
This definition is directly related to the concept of deconstruction as developed by the French philosopher Jacques Derrida during the 60s. Although Derrida emphatically stated that deconstruction is not a method, strictly speaking, it is generally accepted that deconstruction can be considered as a reading strategy which argues about the possibility of assigning a clear and indisputable meaning to sign or text.
Demanding the reader's ability to go beyond the ordinary meaning of a text, deconstruction aims at new perspective and understandings. This textual practice is known as double reading. and it consists of two layers or motives of reading. One being the dominant interpretation of a text, the other a sort of alternative understanding that arises by considering the hidden spots, ellipses, and contradictions in the text. This approach to reading asks for an active participation of the reader as destructive and constructive aspects are at work at the same time. This affirmative strategy of transformation makes deconstruction appealing when it comes to hard or creative tasks.
Deconstruction in the Derridan sense means reading a text applying a specific strategy which allows the reader to question the essential meaning. Deconstruction makes the reader acknowledge the impossibility of achieving the universal comprehension of a text because of the substantial inconsistency between word and meaning.
The meaning of a text is disassembled from the inside as deconstruction operates within the vocabulary of the text to take into question. This result is achieved by comparing different levels of significance in the textual structure. It is well known that a text can be often interpreted in many different ways. This fact depends on the presence of multiple underlying meaning layers. We are usually able to favor one meaning over another because this polarity is held in the background by the author or the reader. Deconstruction aims to question the dominance of one meaning over another and asks for the reader's awareness of this meaning authority.
Here is an introduction to one of the most important topics as described by Derrida himself. In a traditional philosophical opposition, we have not a peaceful coexistence of facing terms, but a violent hierarchy. One of the terms dominates the other, occupies the commanding position. To deconstruct the opposition is above all, at a particular moment, to reverse the hierarchy. Let us linger on these oppositions, as their tracking down is an essential point. According to Derrida, one of the characteristics of Western philosophy is thinking in terms of binary oppositions, polarities, dichotomies, such as meaning, form, soul, body, intuition, expression, literal, metaphorical, nature, culture, intelligible, sensible. The most interesting feature is that the negative term marks a fall and is considered a disruption, a negation of the positive term. This leads to hierarchical organization within the terms of the opposition. The positive term is given priority. The negative one acts as the necessary difference which justifies the priority given to the positive term. Derrida traced this way of thinking back to the oldest examples of Western philosophy, to the enterprise of returning strategically in idealization to an origin or to a priority seen as simple, intact, normal, pure, standard, self-identical, in order then to conceive of derivation, complication, deterioration, accident, etc. All metaphysicians have proceeded thus from Plato to Rousseau, from Descartes to Husserl. Good before evil, the positive before the negative, the pure before the impure, the simple before the complex, the essential before the accidental, the imitated before the imitation. This is not just one metaphysical gesture among others. It is the metaphysical exigency, the most constant, profound, and potent procedure. Pretty complex, isn't it? So let's try to make it easier for everyone. What is deconstruction? So basically, Derrida used to say that in every text we have two layers of significance or meaning. So we have one layer, which is the common layer, let's say, the ordinary layer, the layer which gives the ordinary meaning. So you read a sentence and you understand, you get a meaning by reading it. But there is also another layer which is hidden, which is made by what is not in the text. So basically Derrida used to say that what is not present in the text is more important than what is present, because what is not present is the boundary of, is the limit of the meaning. So what is good because we know what is bad, or what is pure because we know what is not pure, what is impure. And and that leads to a lot of consequences, because the second layer, the hidden layer, is more important than the first one, according to Derrida. And that is also important because the language that we use, in this way, it becomes the limit, the boundary of the reality we live in. Now, the most logical question would be like, what are you researching there? What's the link with the jazz music? And I accidentally stumbled across a very funny story which happened in 1993, I guess. And these two people were part of this story. Ornette Coleman and Jacques Derrida were the main characters of this story. Well, what happened is pretty easy. Ornette Coleman was playing at the Paris La Villette Jazz Festival in 1993, and apparently he was a big fan of Jacques Derrida. He used to read Derrida's books, and they used to have a lot of conversation, and Derrida even interviewed Coleman many times. So once, when he was playing in Paris, Coleman decided to invite Jacques Derrida on stage while he was performing, and proposed him to read some of his essays while Ornette Coleman's band was playing. And Derrida was supposed to read those texts in a jazzed up rhythm, which is kind of could be a lot of things, but who knows? I was not there, of course. And apparently that happened. So Coleman's group was playing, Derrida hopped on the stage, he started reading his text, and at some point, Coleman's audience started booing, and Jacques Derrida was forced to leave the stage. And in one of his autobiographical texts, Derrida recalls this moment as very painful, because the audience was very violent. They really didn't accept what was going there. So I was very fascinated by this story, because in my opinion, this story somehow describes several aspects which both deconstruction and jazz music they have in common. First of all, they are unpredictable. Deconstruction is unpredictable because its consequences are unpredictable. Think about those weird buildings, those weird lines, you know. And jazz is unpredictable as well because of the improvisation, because of the attitude of jazz music. But they are also connected, in my opinion, because somehow jazz music use the same double layering which is found on deconstruction text. So what if we think about lead sheets? So what is a lead sheet? First of all, a lead sheet is a music score which lacks a lot of information. So think about that. We got a melody, we got some chords, we got rhythm. It's not even a rhythm, it's just a time signature, no dynamic, no phrasing. So there's a lot of missing information. And what if this missing information are more important? What if this missing information are there? So what are we going to play? We're going to play what's written. If we have to play every lead sheet as it's written, what music will be? Where's the music? Like, what if we play the quarter notes in a swing tune as quarter notes? No one plays quarter notes in a swing tune evenly, you know? So in jazz music, we have these two layers. We have the first layer, which is the lead sheet, for instance, and the other layer, which could be the interpretation of the lead sheet, or it could be also the rewriting, the recomposing of the lead sheet, which everyone calls it the solo. What is a solo? solo is when you interiorize the melody of a tune and you create something out of it. So it's kind of every deconstructive writing is a creation, is a rewriting, because if you read the text and you interiorize the ordinary meaning, a lot of other meanings arises, you know. And this is the same thing, in my opinion, which happens into jazz music. I was very fascinated by this word in particular, point of hardness. What is a point of hardness? It's a crack. In every text, in every score, there is a crack. The crack could be a lack of information. The crack could be maybe the author of the composer, which left the pen and went doing something else, and when he went back, something was different, you know? So it is something which happened, and it's something which it's a deviation from the rule. And in my opinion, every music which can be called a masterpiece has some kind of deviation in it. You know, think about, I don't know, Stravinsky, Rite of Springs. It was deviating so hard from what people were expecting from a classical ballet that there was even a riot in the theater after the premiere, you know. So I made some research, and I found out that apparently there is really a lack of literature about the relationship between deconstruction and music, and the relationship between deconstruction and jazz music. This is one of the few texts that I found about these two topics, and I think this short excerpt is worth reading. Considering the specific case of jazz standards tunes, we can also frame two distinct forms of reading. On the one hand, a form of reading of the score that requires a common ground of rules and knowledge that assures that something is readable and understandable. This ground is constituted by the knowledge of notes, harmony, and symbols. In short, all this is related to music theory. On the other hand, we find another form of reading that aims to do what deconstructive reading does with text, namely, to question the common understanding of the tune and unveil new approaches based on the point of hardness that the malleability of jazz form generates. So what is this malleability of jazz forms? There are several levels of structure in any music. There's a macro level, there's a micro level. The macro level could be like the sonata form, could be the AABA song. Then we have smaller levels of structure, such as phrase, semi-phrase, segment, all different ways to delimitate short fragments of melodies. Then another structure could be the rhythm with downbeat, upbeats. There are a lot of, you know, different structures. And all these structures are built on a hierarchy. And some elements of this structure are more important than others. This is another aspect of deconstruction that I deeply investigated in my research. Maybe this is not the time to talk about this, because this will need another time to unveil. But anyway, what I'm trying to communicate now is that, in my opinion, it's possible to find a link between these two apparently different topics. What I've done and what I will show you later by performing, and it's my personal take on deconstruction, there is no scientific way to deconstruct anything. Everyone has his own approach, because to have a rigid paradigm, that will be against the spirit of deconstruction. Deconstruction aims to openness, aims to reverse the hierarchy, not to create another hierarchy. That would be totally no sense according to Derrida. So basically my research question were, is there any artistic implication in the deconstruction theory? Yes, in my opinion, there are many of them, and Derrida would, he thought so. In fact, he used to say that applying deconstruction only with text would be something which really limits the deconstruction value. Which role do opposition play in music? Well, I just mentioned several hierarchical structures, like for also harmony. If we think about harmony, it's the most hierarchical system in music. Like think about one sound, and around this sound, a lot of other sound, they evolve, and this sound is the more important, the tonic. And is it possible to apply deconstruction to music? Yes, in my opinion. I mean, this is at least what I try to do. There's no scientific answer to this question, but trying is worth doing. So my research design is basically meant, as I said, by these two things, philosophy and music. And the compositional part is also took some inspiration from the Pernodgar compositional technique. Pernodgar was a famous Danish composer which he developed some compositional technique based on hierarchies and way to reverse hierarchies. So this is the most important slide, probably, the outcome. So what is the outcome of all of this mess of ideas and concept, very complex and blah, blah, blah. So what did I hear? What did I learn with all of that? I learned basically two things. How to disassemble music into pieces, because deconstruction is somehow the opposite of construction, but at the same time, it is a way to begin construction, you know? Like when you want to build something and you're not starting from scratch, and you have maybe something that was there before, you start disassemble that thing and start assembling in a new way, like those buildings. Like the Guggenheim Museum Bilbao, this is my reference when I think about disassembling stuff. And then how to manipulate melodies, rhythms, harmonies. So how to deconstruct melodies, how to use like short fragments of the form, put it in another place, try to see what happens if you take one value away from one bar and put in another value. So basically playing with music, like becoming a child again, starting to have these small tiny pieces of music that could be melodies and try to combine them in new ways, see what happens. I mean, there's no scientific way, really. You have to be sure what you're doing, because no one is going to tell you this is okay, this is great, this sucks. Like, it's really up to you. So starting from this, performance. I wrote 4 tunes, basically. At the beginning, I didn't know what I was doing, really. I was just playing. Then these tunes they developed, you know. They acquired something which I liked. And the next point was, okay, what am I going to do with these tunes now? Like, how can I use them? And like, still trying to give you the overall picture. Entrepreneurship, we all doing like entrepreneurship course. So I was talking to Jos, and apparently there was one of the possible project plan was doing a recording, an album recording, and I thought, wow, great! This is the best way to use this material. Like, let's just record it. And I jumped into this instantly, and I had to deal with new challenges as a musician, of course, like trying to be a good leader or a sideman. I already made up my portfolio with these tunes, and then I started rehearsing with those marvel of groups. Thank you to all of you guys. Most of you are not here, unfortunately, because all of you guys went back to their homelands. And unfortunately tonight I am going to perform only with the trio and not with the septet because of this problem. But really it was difficult because the music was demanding, like a lot of weird complex time signature and stuff. And thank you for your patience, guys. You were really amazing. Also in supporting me, because it was something which was developing in the meantime. So I was learning by doing, literally. I composed these tunes. The trio tunes, I'm going to perform them tonight. So it's Whisper Song is an original song of mine, which is like the more ordinary of the set. And then we got some arrangements, Stella, Facing the Rhythm, and Harrigan. You can see already in the picture that there are a lot of weird stuff going on here, so like time signature and stuff. But don't look at it, like some of you already know. So the album is called Full Circle. It's been recorded in school, and then it's been mixed and mastered in Amsterdam. Those guys were very supportive, really. And on top of the recording, I started developing new, at least new to me, because I was not accustomed to do that kind of work before. So I'm talking about like planning everything, like it's difficult to plan if you're not used to do it. For who's used to planning is the most amazing thing ever, because it gives you structure, gives you time to really focus. So I had to learn how to like create an overall picture over the album as well. So it's not just recording, it's not just it's not just composing, arranging, rehearsing, recording, but it's like also how to sell copies, because it's like you pay money to the recording to press the CD. So how to sell this stuff. And this is the actual cover of the recording. I talked to Joost, and like I made a list of the expenses. I found ways to cover most of them. Still, I have to pay for some stuff still, but anyway. And then how to sell copies, set albums, things that are completely ordinary, but to me they were not actually. I had to learn to do them. And then how to make a proper promotion, how to use the social medias in a good way, how to do a proper release event, how to organize a tour. Like, I've never organized a tour before. I had to understand how to do that. Actually, the tour, we still have to do that. We haven't done the tour before, so I would probably go back to Groningen soon, maybe, who knows. And then I also created my personal website as a part of the entrepreneurship course. To end my presentation, I think it was worth mentioning a couple of other people which helped me, and namely they were Kurt Weiss and Michael Moore, which are not present here, but their support was very important in developing the compositional techniques which are based on the deconstruction. They helped me a lot, so I received feedback from them. They were patient enough to listen to my compositions, and it was a very nice exchange, I would say. And yeah, and this is the last slide. My personal assessment criteria, I already sent them to you by email, but I put also in the final presentation. So as I'm done, I think now we can start with the performance. So I will call on the stage Mark Haanstra. Woo! And Frankie Ercsei. just a few words about the tunes we play. Of course, they were Fascinating Rhythm and Hurricane, then we will continue with an original of mine called Whisper Song. This was Whisper Song, and now we are gonna end the set with Stella by Starlight. Mark Haanstra on bass, Frankie Ercsei on drums.